about shochu. It's a spirit that has been near and dear to my heart for some time now. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak with Takuma-san and share a little bit about how we look at the spirit and approach the spirit from a cocktail perspective. Before diving fully into the cocktail conversation, though, I wanted to set a little bit of groundwork around what shochu is, and more so in this seminar, how it is mixed traditionally, because I think that may offer a little bit of insight and inspiration when you start to reach for those bottles, mixing yourselves. Don Lee and then Nomura Soran-san had done a seminar about shochu a little while ago as well. And there's a lot of information online, but if you go to the JSS shochu website, you can register for the competition and also get access to some really incredible information about what shochu is in general that Don has put together. So I'd urge you all to do that if you haven't yet. And then I am just going to take a little bit of time before Takuma and I kind of just go back and forth, sharing some examples of stuff we've made in the past to share some more traditional ways in which shochu is enjoyed. And I think to set that framework and tone is to lean into shochu as a category leans towards that lower ABV side of the spectrum. And I think something that I've witnessed judging this competition for a couple of years now is that there's a little bit of hesitancy around working with those lower proof shochu because there's this concern that it'll be a watery drink, you won't be able to taste the shochu, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to encourage you by sharing these more traditional serves to show how much shochu actually loves water and how it is a spirit that can handle quite a lot more than I think we give it credit for. So one of the
Amazing.
thank you, Taku. One of the most popular traditional styles of serving shochu is it's not on ice, it's not even straight, but it's actually oyuwari. And that is mixing shochu with hot water. But there are some really incredible and very precise ways in which it can be done. Everything from ratio to the angle at which you pour the shochu, the shape of the glass that you're working with. And depending on where you are or who's making that oyuwari for you, you may experience a little bit of a different profile. But what most people lean into and agree on is that the shochu is the last thing to go into that vessel. And there are a couple of reasons for that. The first being that when you pour the hot water into your vessel, you are both warming that vessel as well as cooling down the water just a little bit. If you take boiling water into an already hot vessel, you'll be holding that temperature at a little bit more of a higher temperature than is ideal. But you think about when you pour, let's say you've boiled water and it's cooled down a little bit and it's like at 200 degrees when you pour it into your vessel, you lose about 10 degrees when poured into an average room temperature vessel. So then you're bringing it down to 190, which is still too hot to really enjoy and really sip on. So you want it to cool down a little bit before you're serving it. So I recommend closer to, boil it and then let it cool down to like 180 or so before you dive in. 195 if it's going to be a lot of shochu going in or something like that, but just something to consider. And then from there, the kotsu, or the trick, is to pour the shochu just over the top of that water. And there's a method, and you can see it. A lot of oyuwari pours are actually done in glassware, thicker glasses, because when you pour the spirit over the top of that hot water, you can actually see it glistening as it goes in. And the aim is to create a spiral over the top. And so when pros at making oyuwari, and again, it takes a lot of technique to do this 2-ingredient drink, but the pros, when they pour it, they'll pour it just down the side of the glass so it swirls around over the top, and then all the aromatics of the shochu start to rise up to you. When we think about like the science of drinking and the way that we perceive taste and everything, when something is hotter, it's muting certain things like sweetness, but it's amplifying other things like the ethanol, right? That starts to come up off of the glass. And so from there, this drink has an incredible like span of flavor that changes over time with the changing of the temperature of the drink. And so something that may feel a little bit too hot, both in temperature and in alcohol at first, after it sits for a while, the sweetness starts to come out. And so that's why this is a really popular serve for imo-shochu, for sweet potato shochu. Right.
It's actually my grandpa. Like when I visit him, sometime maybe like it was very long time ago when I was little, and I still remember that he likes imojoju, and then he's pouring like it's just a glass, and then like he pour like hand pour like imojoju, and then put the like the ryokucha, it's a hot green tea, and then he really enjoying it. So that's like so Julia explained the like very professional, but in Japan it's like usually like like when they're like hot, the cold weather, like people really enjoy the like hot shochu usually. Yep.
And so much of it is simple as best.
Yes.
People with hands raised, but we'd love to hold for questions at the end. So we're going to go through. We'll leave plenty of time for questions. Thank you for those hands.
Amazing. Also, my name is Takuma from Martinys, New York City. So first, I created Martinys as a shochu cocktail, which is using actually Beni Ikko is the potato shochu from Kagoshima, which is a pina colada twist. So I'm thinking that like it's easy to like swipe the like the from the classic cocktail to into the shochu. For example, for me is for example berry shochu is for me a taste little bit of whiskey, and then so the rice shochu is a little bit of sake flavor, and then so the potato the brown sugar shochu is for me is like a little bit of the rum flavor. So this moment, the potato is a little bit potato shochu is a little bit of tequila the flavor for me. Then I try to like swipe and then add it to like little touch of like like if it's potato like tequila in it, and then the when I created the potato, the pina colada, I put the little bit of tequila and the shochu, the basically shochu and little bit of tequila and a pineapple and lime and touch of sugar and the coconut, but instead of the sake rice. So then I created a little bit of twist of the pina colada twist. It's like a touch of different, but still pina colada. But you feel like a little bit of Japanese.
That sounds so good. I want to I want to try that one. Have you done have you done any oyuwari variations at Martinys?
Oyuwari variation is at Martinys, no yet, but I usually do at home.
At home? How do you do it?
Yeah. Basically like very simple, but same. It is no boil, like too much boil, and then the flavor is not like a settle to me. It's like, so that's why like the little set and put in the shochu. But I like the barley shochu.
You like it?
Oyuwari. Yeah.
How would you say barley shochu tastes different? Like if you take the whichever barley shochu you have at home, rocks versus oyuwari, how is the flavor different?
So it's totally different. Like aroma is totally different. When I sip, it's more like with the ice, more toasted note. If it's the barley shochu. But so it's like when I put the oil, sort of like little round flavor. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
then, like that like a little bit of yakimo. It's like
Mm.
grill sweet potato. But it's not potato shochu, but it become like those kind of flavor into the hot
Yeah, almost like a roasted sweet.
oyuwari.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the warmth of it. Yeah. It's pretty incredible what just hot water can do. There are various ratios that you can explore as well, like traditional ratios. There's a go, which means 5-5. It's actually just one
Mm-hmm.
part shochu water. Rokuyong is quite popular, 6-4. And if you're doing 6 parts of a 25% ABV shochu to 4 parts, you end up right around 15% ABV. And if we think about that from, a beverage perspective, that's, higher end of wine, maybe like right around what Nihonshu, a Japanese sake would be sipping as. So something that's really, really easy to sip alongside food or even just on its own. And we can have a couple of them, which is also fun. There's a saying in Japan, this is in Oita specifically, kama, where they say toppai, which is like the tenth glass or something. There's a brand actually called toppai, which is really incredible. But that whole thing is that shochu, the lower ABV shochus, when you're drinking them cut with a whole bunch of water, you're able to kind of sip through for a longer period of time and not feel any. The water's bringing out, to Takuma's point, that natural sweetness that is in the shochu. Of course, it's distilled, so there are no actual sugars in there. But with being an agent in a saccharification process, we're seeing all these incredible complex like protein change and amino acids coming into play. And as those open up in the glass, you're going to get texture, you're going to get flavors that wouldn't have appeared if it was just straight or if it was such a high proof. So just something to think about. Some other like classic stirs, of course, shochu on ice, shochu and soda. There is a whole category of chuhai, but until recently, those are very much not allowed for honkaku shochu. So the very act of making a shochu cocktail is not really a thing in Japan right now. So what we're doing is actually very, very distinctive. And so I'd encourage everyone to understand like the tradition of honkaku shochu and how it is supposed to be quite simply, because honkaku shochu is intended to taste like that from which it is made. It doesn't go through multiple distillations. It's not like any other spirit in that regard. And so just something to lean in when you're getting inspired for your cocktails is but where did this come from? Why is it like this? Why is it that, brands are starting to think they have to make high proof? Is it only that's what we are used to and they want to make it easy for us to work with? But how can we lean into that lower ABV? And just some things to put on your radar as considerations. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Takuma,
great.
any other
Yes.
traditional serves that you want to share?
So it's basically, I usually drinking like with the simply water, like the most. But
Yeah.
so I kind of like the with the peel, a touch of flavor, the lemon peel, lime peel, and then so we are talking about the cocktail creation for the future. Like I like to do this that I told that depends on the shochu, depends on the category. So it's connected to the the whiskey or the tequila or rum or something like this. So for example, I actually have one shochu, which is each for special. So for example, smell it. Yeah, like it's very, very similar to like touch of whiskey flavor. Or maybe I can make like sidecar twist, whiskey sidecar twist. Or if you like maybe like 45 shochu, this shochu, and 15 ml of the maybe whiskey, and then you can actually make old-fashioned twist, something like that. So I try to image and connect the the classic cocktail and a little bit of twist of it.
Yeah. I think
What
that,
what
mm,
what's
and
your what do you think? What's your method? Like you usually like build your signature cocktails.
for me, I'm very ingredient focused. I would say, especially when it comes to Nihonshu and Shochu, they they, in a sense, especially Shochu, deserve a category of their own, like Shochu cocktails. I
Mm,
appreciate and love the idea of a classic cocktail, and I like to think about those as templates and like why do they exist? Why do they work? Like the old fashioned, for example, spirit, British sugar, water. We can do a
mm,
plethora of things with that, but the existence of an old fashioned is a drink that is served over ice and starts off quite strong and has this bell curve of enjoyment, right? Where it's maybe a hair boozy, and then all of a sudden it starts like to get a little bit of dilution, and all of a sudden you're starting to taste some new things, and it hits this perfect point of like
mm,
and enjoyment. And then at some point it starts to get a little bit watery and you're like, okay, what's next? And so
mm.
when I'm thinking about that versus a Negroni or something like that, which for me, there's, I mean, so much sugar in Campari and in vermouth alone, and
Right.
the gin, how it wants water to open up and expand. But then there's that balance of bitterness and sweetness and spirit and botanical and all of that. It's a high flavor cocktail just across the board. And with short,
Mm,
there's this opportunity to be like, well, what is in this glass? Like you just poured yourself a little bit and started nosing and getting inspiration just from that alone. That is one of my preferred methods, is like, what is the intent of this drink? How do I want this to be enjoyed over what period of time? But then also, what am I inherently tasting in the shochu? What do I want to pull out? And more often than not, for me, it's about the ingredient or the place that it comes from, or
mm,
I'm fortunate enough to go visit several shochu makers. I get inspired
mm-hmm.
those relationships and those people and maybe what we ate when we were in that area. And so
100%.
yeah, the inspiration comes from all over the place. Connected to like cocktails and then taking a classic and kind of like shifting it around a little bit,
Mm,
especially as it's cold here in Chicago.
mm, mm-hmm.
The hot cocktail series going on right now, and currently we're doing an apple. It's called Ringo Toddy because I'm not very creative with names, but it's we had a dish on the menu, the food menu, that used apples, but not all of them. So we took all the scraps and macerated peels and sugar, and then added sparkling pear cider from Eric Bordelais to create a syrup from that. And then we had taken the other parts like the flesh of the apple and infuse those into each equal silhouette shochu, which is a beautiful
Mm,
vacuum distilled, atmospheric distilled, a little bit of aged shochu in there, 100% barley from Oita, and then bringing
mm-hmm.
this together with bitters in a really very much toddy form, right? Because there's sugar, we're adding sugar, we're adding bitters, so it's not necessarily oyuwari, but then to kind of bring in this element of the oyuwari, we're floating a
Mm,
shochu over the top. So Amami Oshima Shuzo has the Jogo Kokuto Shochu, which is this incredible aromatic black sugar shochu, essentially, and that gets
we
flipped up as a garnish. So they're
we
getting a
we went there together, right?
yeah, we went there
Yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah.
It was so
It was
special.
amazing experience. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and so just as a nantino, sorry, I forgot the English, an example of how you can bring together cocktails
Mm,
and classic serves, because I do think of them as different things. I wouldn't necessarily call oiwari a cocktail, uh,
mm,
especially if you think about the more Western, like classic definition of a cocktail, but we can bring in elements together. So that's another
mm.
a mix, Japanese
It's
American,
a
and so like
it's a
that. So, mm,
Yeah, it's actually like you explain that to us. It's like very special, and then those kind of feeling, it's very like so when you judge, like we receive those kind of feeling, no? So the image of the cocktail and why you had it and why you like feel it, the place, or like when you taste in the whiskey, that's very I mean no, that shochu is very important, right?
absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
flavor
So
first.
for me is the when like it's in general. So if you try to make delicious cocktail, I think it's not too difficult. For example, like you put the base spirits and then sugar and citrus acid body, extra juice, and maybe like the container, and then put the ice and shake it, and then pour in the glass, taste it. Maybe you can make it like great good cocktail. But how important is like history behind and why you created this cocktail?
Yeah.
So like always, like I try to make it one by one. Each cocktail has like 2 seconds, maybe. Oh no, like 2 or 3 sentences of like I can explain something.
Mm,
Um, Simple, but it's more kind of like catchy, something like this. And then so why I create this cocktail, something like that. So I'm trying to create like those images is very important for me. And then Julia just saying like for the toddy, the apple toddy, it's very like meaning, like what I mean. So I'm not forget like oh, Julia Momose create this cocktail, and then I love to try.
thank you. I love I love that you bring up like this idea of history, but especially the why. I believe that with shochu, there's so much intentionality on the part of the producers because when
Mm,
you think about how in a sense simple it is with ingredients and with honkaku shochu, there are limitations to what they can and cannot do. Think of them as guidelines. Think of them as also jumping off points to get even more creative, though. Um, that it has to be fermented with koji. It can only be distilled one time. They can't add any flavoring or anything like that after the fact. Barrel aging is okay, but it cannot be darker than a certain saturation point. All of
mm,
these things, there are still, if you lined up, you know, 30 different imo shochu, sweet potato shochu, you would be able to
mm,
find 30 distinctive. Like anyone could be like, wow, these are all definitely different things.
mm,
Whether by they're using different types of sweet potato, how recently the sweet potatoes were harvested. I mean, what the temperature was in the fields that year, the natural sugar content of those sweet potatoes, which type of koji they're using. Is it yellow? Is it white? Is it black koji? How long did it spend with
mm,
koji? How many hours? Are they making their own koji? Do they have their own koji muro, or are they purchasing from a koji maker separately? How consistent is their product year to year? Are they trying to do something a little bit different? Are they
mm,
hanging the sweet potatoes to dry before they start that fermentation to concentrate flavors, or are they maybe freezing them to concentrate the flavors in another way? Are they doing other really wild, technologically advanced methods of aging to pull out certain flavors from those sweet potatoes that were typically considered off flavors, right?
mm,
There's so much just wild intentionality that's happening by these shochu producers because it's just simply this is what they have, and they're able to take so few things and do so much with it. And so that also is a big part of inspiration for me when I'm making drinks is, well, how much can I do with the least number of things?
mm. So maybe like an older bartender need to go to Japan and feel
Yeah,
it. So you need to win.
yeah, please. Yeah, something to think about too for this competition is when you're tying in artistry, when you're tying in inspiration from an outside source. Like this isn't just about the shochu, it's about uh, homage to a Japanese artist and just thinking about that.
Mhm,
I don't know every artist. I know a lot about shochu, but
mhm,
when you're bringing an artist to the table, it's likely that it's someone I've never heard of. And so what I'm really excited for is to see how you make me aware of this person,
mhm.
of their art through your cocktail and through your presentation and the story that you're telling. So find
That's
every
true.
element of connection that you can, to really share your thought process, not just because it was pretty or not just because this color is the same or whatever. I mean, yes, that is thought, that is intent, but what else is there? Give me something that when I walk away, because I want to remember the names of these artists, but unless it's something that really like hits, I have too much up here right now, and so it probably won't stick. So just something to think about from that side of the inspiration things too for this
Mm-hmm.
thing. Yeah.
That's true. Even I'm a Japanese, but so I don't really know a lot of much like the Japanese like name of the artist. But it's like oh this face, and also like maybe oh this art maybe I seen a lot and I really like it. I have some ideas too. Like I maybe like other side like I would try myself to create cocktail as a like combination with the art as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question. So low ABV, like I mean like general usual shochu versus like high proof shochu. So maybe you use both of them, right? So, but you using more, Julia using more like low ABV or like high ABV more?
I use a lot of the 25% ABV shochu.
Mm,
There are also some brands that I work with that are a little bit higher ABV, simply because they're delicious too, of
mm,
course.
mm-hmm.
But I really, really love the qualities of a 25% ABV shochu. I lean in a little bit more in that sense. And also something for folks to, consider too is that shochu producers are taxed more heavily at the
Mm,
25.1% mark by the National Tax Agency of Japan. There are a lot of laws in place around that. And so
mm-hmm.
coming back to intentionality, when producers are putting out product that is above 25% ABV, they are choosing to pay more for this bottle. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense? And so that level of intentionality, that their choice to do it, whether at 33% ABV or 35% ABV or 40% ABV, they are like, I'm willing to pay more money to put out this product because I believe in this product for what it is. And so
Mm,
I have a lot of respect for that as well. But my hope is that, and I expressed this in a recent trip back home. There's a panel with producers, and this is a question that we got asked the entire trip was like, should we be doing a high ABV version of or a higher ABV version of our product? And my whole thing was, please don't do it on account of Western style of bartending. Please lean into what feels best and right and true to you, because if we are good at our jobs, we should be able to make delicious things with this product as it is. And
mm-hmm.
so it's not even
Also,
just a
yeah,
thing.
people feel like it's not about like high proof or low proof. Recently, like people care about like more like a quality of drink, I think. Like maybe like back in 10 years ago, um when I was angel share, I mean like I keep making like low ABV cocktail, and then some people ask me like can I get extra tequila or can I get extra like vodka? It's sometimes, but I think it's past like 3, 4, 5 years. I don't really hear. That means that people already know like what's the quality of drink. It's like a low ABV or high ABV. You pick. You ask. You ask the bartender, and also like we have all about like range of the like alcohol percentage cocktails. So I think it's the that low ABV cocktail, I mean, which is like, the shochu 25%, it's very good fit to use for the like low ABV cocktails.
Mm. Yeah, there's definitely a movement towards that, and it's flavor over anything else. And I think again why I kind of break away from the more traditional templates of classic cocktails when I'm working with shochu, and I'm just like, well, what am I
Mm,
tasting, smelling? How is this partnering with other ingredients? And then
mm,
it's a drink that is, you know, kind of like a martini, kind of like a Manhattan, but it's neither. Is an actual description on the menu, like
mm-hmm.
We can have a lot of fun with it, I think. We're about 30, just over 30 minutes in, and I'm sure there are probably a lot more questions than we could keep talking, but I think I'd like to,
Hmm.
for some questions, there are some typed into the Q&A, but also happy to have folks jump on and ask by raising their hand. So we can start going through the ones in the Q&A.
Oh, maybe before going to jumping on the Q&A, I have a ask you a question, guys. I know most of people, maybe US birth staff knew shochu, but when you hired someone brand new, how you teaching shochu to your staff? How you training to palate? How you identify the point? It's a critical point to teaching to the bartenders about shochu.
Takuma-san, dozo.
So basically, like, so we have like all the category of shochu. So like depends on the ingredients. Like, first, like, so I want them to taste first. Then like, it's actually like, smell, flavor. It's like one category of shochu, but it's so much different. Like, as a like, Julia told us. So we keep teaching, and also the depends on the brand, right? Of course. And then they using the like, oh, this is like the black goji or white goji, like, so it's it's a, I mean, like, day by day process. I think I think it's like, not like, only one time like we teaching blah blah blah, but also um sometimes like when the producer is coming to New York, we do some seminars, like training stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. With what you said, Chikako-san, that teaching people about what shochu is so important because it'll also help them know how to work with it,
Mm.
which is understand what it is and also why it is like that. And so understanding, some of the rules and regulations around it, because there are some sticky topics when it comes to shochu. From a very simple perspective, I start off with, well, korui versus otsurui. So multiple shochu versus single distilled shochu. And then I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to put the korui away for a second. We're going to put that multiple distilled shochu away for a second. I think those amazing. They're so like the Kanchu high, like all that stuff. You get a hangover, right? Like that's going to go away. And then let's talk about single distillation with otsurui. And then otsurui, depending on what the producer chooses to use and what saturation of color they choose to bottle, etc., will determine whether it is just simply a single distillation shochu made in the honkaku method, or if it is truly a government approved designated honkaku shochu. And so honkaku shochu is really what we're focusing on. And honkaku translates to authentic, or it translates to traditional. And so you may see those words used interchangeably. Authentic traditional honkaku shochu is that which is made from a list of over 50 government approved ingredients. And even within those ingredients, there'll be certain like red seaweed, but like species within that. So it kind of breaks out even further. Single distillation only, fermented with koji, single distillation only. No colors, no flavors, no nothing added to it, no additives at all. Barrel aging is approved, but then cannot be darker than a certain color when it goes to bottle. Must be distilled between 20% and 45% ABV, like within those one time only. Yes. And so from all of that, at the heart and soul, I also encourage my team to understand the differences between certain things. So shochu, shochu, shochu versus soju is really important. That's a really big one. I don't know if y'all know, but Chikako-san, aside from being shochu mama, is also a rock star who worked to get an actual designation of shochu, like to be acknowledged within the United States as a product, so that shochu can be on the labels instead of soju. There was a little bit of this weird gray area back in the day for or licenses, like in California and such, where you don't have a liquor license, but you can have beer and wine. Soju was allowed to be carried in those places. And so there are some shochu producers who put soju on their labels to be able to be sold in those places. But Chikako-san changed the law so that now shochu, that is within that ABV spectrum, can be sold at these places too, which is huge. It's huge for the category. And so now we can really lean in and say soju comes from Korea and shochu comes from Japan. For folks who know, pisco a little bit, Chilean pisco versus Peruvian pisco, they have different they must follow, right? And so if you think about that, very specific ingredients that can be used to make honkaku shochu versus in Korea, it's a little bit more open, but more so we're seeing grains and tubers. And then for ABV, massive differences, whether it is multiple distillation or single distillation. Korea doesn't have that designation either. There are soju producers who do it in like that honkaku shochu method though, but they're just different things, and not one better than the other. They're just different. And so I like to just lean in that, soju is made in Korea, and they don't have the same sets of rules that they do in Japan for shochu, for honkaku shochu. And that's kind of like just leaving it there, because I think soju is a really cool category to discover too, but also we're here for shochu today. But yeah, I would say that.
Amazing.
And then the aging conversation, right? Because shochu producers can extra age their shochu, bottle it and sell it in the US as rice whiskey. But in Japan, they cannot call it whiskey because it's made with rice, it's made with koji. Right. And so there's like all of these like things that are based off of rules and laws and international trade deals, and Margaret Thatcher messed everything up, and this is a separate tangent. Sorry, Shikako-san, you got me started. But yes, I think it's important that we know the differences. We know what it is so that we know the differences between other things and can distinguish that for our guests and for ourselves.
I was shocked in 2-3 years ago, until 2-3 years ago, they are still calling the soju to the the shochu labels.
Yeah. It's really exciting because I have bottles. There's a
That's back a long time ago. Yes.
And so with that, I have to tell the team, this is not soju. This is what says soju on the label, and it's it's a whole thing. So I know it is learning a whole nother language, but I think it's important for anyone doing this competition, especially, but anyone who wants to be working with shochu at your bars, is that you learn the language.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Shikako-san, are there any other questions or things you want us to go over?
Oh, well, we have a lot of questions now, so can you take a look for the question 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a question, does shochu served in masu box like sake? Asking because masu box brings some aroma too. Yeah, so I think the question, for those who don't know, masu is a square box, traditionally is made out of cedar wood, but you can see some that are lacquered, plastic, etc. But they are this exact measurement, like ichigo, so 180 mils. And it's actually a way of measuring rice as well. Like in Japan, like a serving of rice would fill a masu, and it became tradition to serve nihonshu out of those. You can absolutely enjoy shochu out of it. I mean, you can drink it out of anything you want. If it is your masu, it will absolutely express its flavor, and it's stunning. I love it. I think it's a brilliant thing to consider. Takuma, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It has a great aroma, wooden aroma. It's reminds me in Japan a lot, and it's very traditional. So I think it's good way to represent little Japanese style, but it's not randomly using that stuff. You know what I mean? It's the Japanese stuff because of the mass, not like that. It's because of maybe affecting flavor profile, or how you drink. You put the grass on the top, or no, you're gonna drink directly smell it, or no, you know what I mean? That's all affected. So that's all.
Yeah. So I think it's a very traditional thing. So do some if you're gonna lean into those kinds of searches.
So if you connect it with the art, of course, like, I think it's like, good tools.
Excellent. Yeah. The next question is, what type of sugars are good for syrups that won't overpower the shochu?
Like, one of the, maybe you guys know or no, but it's a very, very fine sugar. It's called wasanbon. It's very like melting your like tongue, you know what I mean? It's like a very, very fine, like very delicate, delicious the sugar. This is very traditional from Japan, and a lot of Japanese bartenders using the sugar. So might be fit, but I like to use like agave, 1-to-1 agave as well. It's natural, like it's not like a super intense,
Mhm. Yeah, my answer to this would be, it depends on your shochu. I would just be
Yeah,
thoughtful
for sure.
with it. Any sugar really will probably
Yeah.
be. Yeah, it's just about balance, which leads to the next question. Is there a minimum we have to achieve with our cocktail, or just balanced? We're just looking for balance. So yeah,
Yes.
no.
Not too sour, not too sugar.
The key
Also,
word-
like also image of the cocktail.
Mm,
Image of the cocktail.
yeah.
I always talking about image of the cocktail, about the daiquiri and the gimlet.
Mm,
So the daiquiri is the warm country. The rum is made from like warm, like little bit of tropical, sweet and sour. Like that's why like make it balance, like sweet and sour, little bit of fluffy, like more dense, something like this. Gimlet is like a more crowd, like maybe if you're using the London dry gin, more cloudy, little bit of raining, like what I mean. You want a sharp, more dry, like the touch, like more acidic than like sweetness, and you know what I mean. So you need to have an image of the cocktail. So your art should be that, like connect to the image of the cocktail. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I want to feel it. Yeah.
That was so good. Takuma-san, that was amazing. That was incredible. Thank you. I never thought of it in that way, and I think that's such a stunning way to break out to seemingly on paper similar drinks. So thank you. Hi. I know you like to start shochu cocktails with classic templates, but are there cocktails or recipes you generally avoid or think shochu is rarely suitable for?
What do you think?
I think again, the magic of shochu is that there are so many different types and varieties that, in a sense, while I don't encourage plug and play, as in like direct swaps or substitutions of shochu for a spirit, etc., that to a certain degree, if you are looking for a shochu that can play well with like robust bitter, like that Negroni template that I mentioned, there are shochu for that. If you are looking for a shochu that would be great in like an old fashioned variation or martini variation, there are shochu for that. So I would again just lean in here and say to be thoughtful, to really taste. Maybe my suggestion would be meet the shochu first, get to know your shochu first, choose your shochu, choose what it's going to be, like let the shochu guide you, rather than I want to do this very specific cocktail. I mean, if that is your path, then that's great, but I tend to prefer to get to know the shochu first and then let it become what it needs to be in that moment.
I mean, that's like basically I 100% agree with. I mean, because of daiquiri, is it because of rum, and that's why that flavor profile. So I 100% agree. Like you have to taste it first. What kind of shochu is it, and then so you get an image of it. Yeah. So
Next question is, this competition has a minimum of 2 ounces shochu for cocktails. Obviously, a lot comes down to selecting the right shochu, but 2 ounces could be aggressive with certain types. Would you see the 2 ounce shochu minimum as a challenge, or the 2 ounce is common in shochu cocktails? You know what's like fun about this whole competition? I think I noted it earlier, but we are creating a new category of cocktail. There is no norm in shochu cocktails right now. I will say that at Kumiko, I lean in more so like 45 mils, like an ounce and a half for my base spirit for drinks. But shochu, when you're looking at lower ABV, there's wiggle room. We are in a sense defining this category of cocktail. And so I think it's a really great opportunity. And yes, this is one of those guardrails that's going to make you be creative in a certain way. Maybe you wouldn't have done that typically, but I think this is a fun opportunity to lean into, that guardrail that everyone's going to be doing this same thing. Everything else is probably going to be so wild, which is exciting, but yeah. Height. In general, when you make low ABV cocktails, you try to compensate for this by adding more flavor and or more of a wow factor. Maybe I'm old school, but I feel if I give my customers a low ABV cocktail, they'll be disappointed. How do you deal with the perception that high ABV cocktails equal good quality and low ABV cocktails equals cheap, low quality? Takuma, you want to?
High ABV cocktails, good quality. I don't really think so. Like yeah, like I'm trying to, for example, even I use the high proof liquors, but so I want to create something like a more easy to drink. For example, I have one cocktail is called Caprese, and then this cocktail based on the whiskey. But so the I feel like who hate whiskey drink, so they have a bad image of the whiskey, right? Like for example, you drink too much or you shot too much, or like you get like something like a bad images. I want to give them like come back to like a good images. So I create like the very delicious smooth like low ABV cocktail with the whiskey. So like sometimes like different reason, so I try to get the flavor profile into the cocktail. So shochu is a naturally like like low ABV to 25%, even like lower, like you enjoy the wine, so then wine is a 70%, but this is like the cheap or no, like it's depends on the quality, what I mean, how you let them drink, or like how you present it, or like how you make special. That's the most important part, I think.
I would say this is a question I've been asked a lot in the spirit free realm. I have found that there are markets too where higher ABV equates value, right? And I think that is, value quality, equating those for a moment, that it is our job to make sure that they don't miss that ABV. And so it comes down to the balance and the flavors that we can pull out, wherein people are sipping it and they don't think about ABV as a point of context for the way in which they're describing the drink. So, or you really fully lean in and are like, this is low ABV and this is why, but this is how, balanced it is. Right. And so coming in with that intentionality is what it comes back to. But I do understand how it can be tough in certain markets. And so when you're thinking about drinks that you're going to serve your guests in your market versus the drinks you're going to serve for the judges in this competition, these are different things. Like cocktail competitions are kind of that weird area where your dealer's choicing, but with really intense guidelines, and people are looking for very, very specific things, versus in your markets where you're trying to serve something that the majority of people are just going to simply enjoy, because you don't have time for a whole presentation for every single person. So just something to think about for this competition versus real life.
Yeah.
I hope that answers.
But I like to think about like the low ABV is not like cheap, like what I mean. If you really make like super delicious flavor profile and very subtle and like memorable drink, and so like people appreciate to pay for you.
Yeah. Cool.
I hope.
Takuma already mentioned rice shochu, but I was wondering if you could talk briefly about awamori and its uses.
Oh, yeah. So like, yeah, like, yeah, awamori. So awamori is like 500 years like in history behind, like sort of like original. They use in the it's actually Thai rice, and then it's almost like it's almost same method of the like shochu, but it's like it's made from Okinawa, and then they are aging with the kame. How do you explain like English the kame?
Ceramic urn.
Yeah, ceramic. Yeah, yes. So so in when I first time trying the like the awamori, it was like super intense and like wow, strong, like that's like images. But I heard like from Okinawa person, they are not really drinking like on the rocks or something like that. It's always like the with the water, and then like and try to make it more a little bit low ABV. The awamori is a little bit high proof, and then like the regular shochu, correct?
Oftentimes, yeah.
Yes,
Aged.
yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Awamori, yeah, as a whole, in general, it has a appellation of origin status, and it must come from Okinawa, utilizing long grain rice, specifically Thai
Yeah,
rice.
yeah. Thai
Black.
rice.
And then something else that just distinguishes it from our typical honkaku shochu from Kyushu and mainland is that it goes through only one fermentation process, ichidan shikomi. Whereas with honkaku shochu, we're seeing nidan shikomi. So the producing koji is made, and then you bring your rice and koji and the ingredient together to like build up all of the my brain to convert starches to sugars and build up all of the yeast. We're cultivating yeast, we're making all the yeast happy. And then there's a second stage where they add more koji, and then introduce whatever that secondary ingredient is. So basically they're making a mash first, and then they're adding in whatever that key ingredient is, or just more of the original ingredients, whether it's barley or rice, etc. And then they go to distillation. But for awamori, it's just one time. Yeah.
Also they are ageable, like they are counted as a like koshu, which is the in the bottom they have a number that which years you like producing, and so you can count like in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then I mean like I think it's like collect like it's become more mild and delicious.
Yeah. So there are various like designations for awamori depending on how long it's been aged.
And then become koshu. Can you hear me?
I think Julia is frozen.
Oh, Julia is frozen.
Hi, Julia-san. Okay, so maybe I'm gonna take over.
Yep.
So Takuma-san, so when they're serving for hot shochu cocktail, what would be considered when choose the serveware? Is there any difference between serving ceramic versus glass?
That's a good question. It's about the texture, like because of like when you Julia, welcome back.
Sorry. My hotspot died. I'm back. I have no Wi-Fi here.
Okay, so I
So
was asking for the serving ceramic or glassware. What's the difference?
So I
Yes.
think it's like it's about like the feeling textures. In Japan also like they have like a glass and a ceramic, both of them. But so I would say like the ceramic, for example, Jawan, which is like, like for the, especially for tea from to Japan, it's very, very, like, I mean, easy to drink. Like atmosphere is good, and they like, ceramic, when you grab it, like, it's not too hot, like you feel like, it's like a little hot, you to get your hand, like, those kind of feelings very important for me too. Do you think it's affected, like, flavor profile, like ceramic and glassware, the when you drink the hot cocktail, or when you like serving the
For
hot service
ceramic,
of the
for ceramic versus glass, for ceramic, it depends on whether or not it's a finished ceramic vessel and whether or not that's been used for other things. So for example, we use ceramic kyusu, one-handed Japanese teapots for tea, and those are only for green tea, because if we were to brew something more robust like an oolong or a hojicha, or like we have a chai on the menu in that vessel, it will then smell like it and taste like it, and those flavors will leach into everything. So if you have ceramic ware that has been, you could say, seasoned in a way, just to be aware of that. But yeah, to Takuma, I think Takuma got all of that. Like, how is it gonna feel? Like, not just like visual, but like in our hands as we're drinking from it, as we're smelling from it, top to bottom. Is there a visual you want us to see inside, or is it truly more about the experience, the tactile experience of the ceramic versus the glass? So, yeah.
I think it's glassware, like it's a little bit more like, feeling European like culture things, and then like the ceramic is more like, the Asians, like, feeling might be, but it's depends on the images, which way you want to go.
Next question. Hi, Daniel. When using a lower ABV shochu, any tips on how to keep the aromas of the spirit without them being overpowered by the other culinary ingredients? For this, I think this is going to answer another question lower down too. When creating a shochu cocktail, which comes first, shochu or ingredients, desired flavor profile of said cocktail, or does it vary? So with these in mind, the idea is, how do I not overpower the shochu? Which way should I be going with this? I don't think about my shochu cocktails 80%, 90% of the time. I'm not thinking about it from the cocktail context, but more so as an ingredient, like cooking. So when I'm bringing other ingredients to the table, to this first the star ingredient, I just want them to amplify it, not overpower them. And so when you say culinary ingredients, when you're tasting shochu, what are all those culinary like ingredients that it makes you think of? Like, what are you tasting? Are you tasting roasted sweet potatoes? Are you tasting char? Are you tasting herbs? Are you tasting baking spices? Like, what are all these things? And then pulling from those things that you're actually tasting to then introduce those as that culinary ingredient is one method that I like to do, to just amplify it while bringing in some interest. And then if you think about, well, what ingredient would I pair with this original tasting note to highlight and accent that tasting note as either a complementary point or a contrasting point, then bringing those in. And that's how we get our depth and our complexity and everything. Yeah. So the order of all that varies, but for the most part, I will always start with the shochu first. Yeah, but it varies. Let's see.
For like, good thing about shochu is it's a very like good with the food. I'm always like, it's not just on the drinking, like, it's always like, combination with the food. It's like good with the, like, it's actually like a savory food, or like, it's a little bit vinegar, like, it's like a salad or something like that. Also, like, same time, it's something like, little sweet things as well. So it depends on the shochu. And then, so it doesn't bother like the shochu itself, like, what I mean? It's like for me, it's a like usual, like, table drink, table yeah, alcohol. So like that means here, like, all the ingredients, it can be like, a lot of ingredients is possible to like, connect between in the cocktails. So yeah, please try a lot of ingredients and like, figure out.
I would love to hear about a shochu cocktail you experienced that really stood out to you. Please tell us what was exciting about it and why.
So the one of my the shochu cocktail is called my signature cocktail is called Maya, which is like, the little bit of tropical images using the like, Ichiko Saiten. Like, this is a very high proof shochu, but because of that, like, because I using the pineapple and the basil syrup and then yuzu. It's like 2 ingredients from Japan, 2 ingredients from tropical element. Maya come from Miami name. It's like a more fluffy tropical images, and then it's Japanese element and tropical element combined together. So the moment for me, the Ichiko Saiten, when they coming up, like, it was like, the body shochu, but it's like, slightly like, like a potato flavor into it. And like, I feel like it has body and the like, it has potential to like keep the sweet and sour balance in the cocktail. So that's why I picked the Ichiko Saiten, and I get the extra aroma to it. That's my like maybe make the most like, the cocktail in 2023 2024. I brought that like, all of the world, and the that's like, I want you guys to try and taste it.
I would love to.
Yeah.
It's funny.
What was the word?
I see
Yeah.
this question and I see the word shochu and then I see the word experience, and I'm actually thinking of a shochu experience that I had, and it's not a cocktail, but I would like to share this because I think it's one of the coolest examples of a shochu serve that I've ever seen. And again, this leans into the simplicity of it. But there's a shochu bar in Kagoshima where the proprietor has created her own version of serving shochu, and she calls it kanroku. Kan being the character for like hot, like warm, like kanshu, like a hot beverage or hot sake, hot shochu, and then roku being rocks, so it's like hot rocks. And her hypothesis when she was like working on it is that the way in which we perceive aroma is different when we're introducing shochu to a hot water from when it's with cold. But what if we could experience those at the same time? And so she'll do shochu on the rocks and then pour. She does ice. ごめんなさい. She flips everything. She does ice water, basically. Ice with like a little bit of water. And then she'll warm the shochu, and then she'll pour the warmed shochu over the top so that it is instantly cooling it down and offering this dilution, but then it's still warm at the same time. And it's one of the like weirder, cooler like I've ever seen. And it was absolutely astonishing because she did side by sides for us. And it was with a new make sweet potato shochu, which is still like very lively and like a little bit cloudy. And there's like all these like, like this fattiness in it and stuff. But the way in which it opened up when she did that was super, super cool. And her other point though was like, it's not great for every shochu. It doesn't work. But I just thought that was absolutely astonishing because it was so very, very, very different. Just in like her thought process of how to bring those things together, and then the actual execution of it and the selection of the ingredient. And that at the end of the day is what you all are doing. You're selecting these ingredients, you're bringing them together, and you're using really great techniques. So
that sounds great. I love to try.
It's easy to do. We can do it at home.
I will try.
Yeah. What is the best tasting alternative based shochu you've ever tried? For example, carrot or milk. どうですか?
I think you never guys visit to different distillery to taste the milk or carrot, but it is available, but it's not available US.
I've had it.
あ
What do you want to feel?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, Julia-san tasted milk.
there's one in Kumamoto. Yeah. I don't know if like best carrot is lovely, but actually what I had had been aged quite a bit and couldn't be labeled as shochu anymore. And so it was just like spirit. It was like this 5-year aged carrot shochu, which was quite cool. Miyazaki Prefecture.
How it
Hotel
works? Milk.
Eh?
Milk. How it works?
How is it?
Yeah.
It's cool. It's funky. It's got lactic quality. It's one of the most like, you know, yeah, distinctive, like wild, unique. It's out there. It's definitely lactic. I think roasted barley shochu are also equally like robust and out there. Like when I see like
Oh,
alternative base, I'm also thinking like methods to create something that's really distinctive in the glass. Or if you lined it up with a whole bunch, you'd be like, oh, this is that one. It's like the roasted barley shochus are definitely there. Milk shochu is up there. Sakeli shochu as well. Kastori shochu.
Kastori Joju, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or like some of
I
those
love
shochu
it.
are like fermented at low temperatures with like very, very specific yeasts are very, very special. So they're not necessarily alternative based, but then there are methods that people are doing to pull out flavors. There's been a lot of experimentation with different yeasts for like bringing out banana flavor profiles, bringing out more minty green flavor profiles, or with allowing sweet potatoes to age to a certain point so that when they are fermented and distilled, that it tastes like lychee. And just an interesting point here, that when producing shochu, a portion of that is processing the sweet potatoes, and you're chopping off the bad bits, the rotten bits, because if you ferment and distill rotten portions of shochu, the result is going to be like quite bitter. And the things that you look for on the nose when you're chopping the sweet potatoes are actually notes of orange blossom and lychee. And I think some people in attendance might be thinking right now of dayame shochu, which tastes like lychee. That was the off note that we were told is cut off by traditional shochu producers because those are from rot. Dayame found a way to build up those flavor compounds in the potatoes, but without the bitterness, without the rotting portion, which is also super, super cool. Yeah, but it's just potatoes at the end of the day. Because to Chikako-san's point, we're not able to get milk shochu or carrot shochu here right now, or the seaweed shochus, or bell pepper shochu, chestnut shochu. There's so many out there, and it's super exciting and cool. But yeah, eager for folks to like lean into, what is available here.
I think the United States is right now is available sesame and buckwheat.
Yeah, sesame, buckwheat, yeah.
Yeah.
And those
then
are great.
Ginger,
Soba shochu.
Yeah, soba shochu. And ginger, it's not officially approvable, but it is available US.
So. Ginger and lemongrass aren't on the list.
Where did you try the black pepper shochu, or like the milk, those kind of milk shochu? Which
Bell
part of Japan? Like, yeah, bell peppers.
Milk is Kumamoto.
Oh.
I had one hidden bottle I can bring next time. Like you can taste it. My bottle.
Sounds great. Can't wait.
Kumiko ni koreba.
And so I have to go to Chicago then.
Yeah, please do. I was watching all the past competitions, and I've noticed that a lot of people have a whole presentation and had all these different out-of-the-box glassware and whatnot. Is that what this competition is looking for, to go above and beyond than just example a Nick and Nora glass? No, it's about the liquid, and it's got to all make sense. Though there is an art component here, so this could help with that. But at the end of the day, it's about the drink. Yeah. And also replicability. I'm not sure if we mentioned that yet, but Is this a drink that could go on a menu and be executed by any number of people is also a key
So
thing. So
if
yeah, a lot of those can't do.
if you guys are very good at it, like for example presentation, but so if you really good at the like a presentation, then we expect a lot. So that's why, like, you know, the liquid should be that level of the drink. So then if the drink is not ready for it, then we kind of disappoint. Like, you know, it's like you understand what I'm talking about, right? Maybe. Good. Yeah. So like it should be, if you say something to the ingredients, images, it should be that in the cocktails.
So.
Mm.
Is there an aversion in this specific competition for fortifying a certain selected shochu with an accompanying Japanese-based spirit? I know certain competitions in the past frown upon split bases. The cocktail submitted. Height. I think it all comes down to why. But also, if you're using 2 ounces of shochu and then bringing in another base spirit on top of that, you know, just have a reason for why you're doing that. And it's got to be delicious at the end of the day.
Mm.
Yeah, pretty much the
Sure.
same answer prior. You're not, yeah, you're more than welcome to. I feel like bringing in a different Japanese spirit is similar to bringing in, you know, a spirit or a modifier from anywhere else. It's a cocktail at the end of the day, so you can mix as much as you like. Just got to be balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen shochu employed effectively in tropical tiki cocktails? With tiki cocktails generally being boozier, I wonder how they operate in those drinks. Takuma-san, you have a lot of tropical shochu drinks.
I mean it's about like sweet and sour flavor. I mean the booze is very, very important. But it's about like, so what kind of flavor you want to take to a tropical cocktail. And then there were so many tropical fruits and citrus, which is like, you know, it's not bothering that product. Also, for example, the wine ingredients, pineapple. If you like juice it and use in the meat as well, or like long strain, trying to like, you know, make it drop water, like, you know, pineapple water, or like, you know, so like there were so many like way to like juice the other ingredients as well. So if it's that, like, you know, the delicate, like, you know, if it's, do you think it's like shochu is very delicate, and then so you're gonna make the, like, you know, other ingredients as a delicate, like, you know, it's a more like, you know, how you balance out. And like if your method of the like, you know, the tropical cocktail, then like, you know, you try to fit, right? So like it's like just like, you know, turn down, like even tiki, like it's if you say tiki, this is tiki, you know what I mean? So you need to have a, like, you know, your own method and trying to like, you know, create to shochu tiki. That's maybe like a new genre. So I love to try that.
Yeah. I think it's also worth noting that, you know, I think a lot of people, when they think of Japan, they think of Kyoto, Nara, Mount Fuji, Hokkaido, but we're talking, for the most part, the majority of shochu producers are in Kyushu, which is an island, like the palm trees down there. And if we're thinking about kokudo shochu, the black sugar shochu from Amami, Oshima, like that is truly, I mean, it's its own little world within Japan, just like Okinawa is. And so there's so much of that tropical culture inherently in Japan. And so I would love to see that connection made. Not forcing it in any ways, but just allowing natural connections to tropical coming into play. And I understand that with the note of proof, it's again, it's flavor and balance. Like why does proof have to be what is designating whether or not something is, you know, or is not an enjoyable tropical drink? So just
is it tiki bar, they have some low ABV tiki cocktail, right? So when you go to visit, like, you know, they have a like low ABV part right now. So you can see that tiki is not always like a high proof.
So it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
What side dish, snacks, or foods are your go-to to have with shochu?
I love pickle.
Yes. So I love to eat.
I like I like everything, but I love pickle. Now
It's
maybe I want it.
like acidity for sure.
I see.
Though I'm super sensitive, so like a little bit. I like salty and savory and like fishy stuff. So like
Yes.
dehydrated squid that kind of like pulls up.
Mm.
I always have it at home. It's in my cabinet there.
When I go back to Japan, I always drop back, like bring back to the surume.
Yeah. And so that like
So
smoky cheese is also a favorite, or like little
oh,
wiener sausage. The closest thing I found in America is like little smokies, like those kinds, again, like salty, like robust, like fatty, like I don't know, bar food.
yes.
And on a really thoughtful level though, like things that come from that area. So like in southern Japan, or like, with awamori, like mozuku is super cool. It's like a seaweed, and you kind of like do a little bit of a vinegar, like soy dressing with it, and it's like a little bit slimy and it's super, super tasty. But yeah, those are some things. With how much love and care goes into each shochu, is it sacrilegious to do a split base? Oh yes, we did just answer that. No, I don't think so. It's a cocktail. Mixing shochu outside of oiwari is already considered sacrilege, actually. Like no joke. That's why a lot of the authentic bars in Japan, the cocktail bars, you will never find shochu there. It is not allowed. It's not allowed. It's a thing. And this is like a deeper cultural internal conversation, I think, for Japan. But
Mm.
I'd say what we're doing already is out there. And so just understanding where that shochu is coming from, who's making it, why it is how it is typically enjoyed, and honoring that, and then honoring and respecting the artist who you're representing through your drink, right? Just like leaning into respect and understanding across the board is really important. But this idea of mixing shochu into cocktails, the hope is that shochu will become a call spirit in bars and will help these small producers who are having a hard time selling their product back home right now. I mean, there's a bigger story and picture here, and that's that, we want to help with more exportation of shochu to the US, more importation of shochu into the US and Europe. So if split basing is what we're going to do, then I think that is a respectable method of doing it when we consider all the other factors involved. Any specific techniques that you do not recommend for shochu cocktails, such as clarification, fat washing, flavor infusion?
You can like, for example, we're still like, I still learning to create a cocktail. Like we never stopped. Like back in 10 years ago, like we start clarification. Like maybe like 15 years ago, like early people, like they're making like starting doing this. Nowadays, like it's normal technique, and we are expecting like 10 years later, like maybe like it's another way to create something. So like you can do whatever, but it has to be like it tastes good, and also same time like a balance, and like the it has like shochu flavor in the cocktail.
And this is kind of connected to the final question that I'm seeing, where is the point that replicability becomes a problem? Do we consider what a dive bar has, or a general cocktail bar? Some of us has centrifuges and other equipment, etc. I wish Don was here. Don would have a very like firm, clear-cut stance on this. I would
For
say
sure.
things like rotary evaporators, centrifuges, if there is another way to get that desired effect of clarification that a bar that doesn't have an expensive piece of equipment could do, I would recommend doing it in that way for the replicability portion. I do love Takuma's point just now about innovation and how times are changing and all of this. But when it comes to actually being replicable, I do think that if a centrifuge is used, then I would be like, well, I can't make this because I don't have one at Kumiko, or a rotary evaporator or anything. But I can do infusions, I can do fat washing, those methods. So maybe Chikako-san, do you want to lean in here? Because I don't want to be saying something.
No, it's anything we are not really restricted.
Mm.
You don't have to do it.
And
But
more
it,
like centrifuge, like, is that replicable or would that be no?
no,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
But
the other
I think
equipment.
it's we, but we love to see like how you create it. Like you can make it like one of the ingredients, but you should be like, make it like, you should pour, like it's not just only like, from the glass. Hey, this is cocktail. This is not maybe like, like this
I might also suggest
as a competition.
like I would use a centrifuge at my bar for this. Also provide a recipe for a bar that doesn't have a centrifuge. That would be my suggestion if you're like, it must be a centrifuge because this is like my intention and like this is how I choose it. If you can show that it can be replicated in another way, that could be like your little way around it. Is miso green tea? あれ? 泡盛ではないですよ。Miso green tea is not an awamori.
It's not.
Mizu no Mai is coming from Saga Prefecture, so it's not awamori. But yes, green tea shochu. Green tea is an approved ingredient for honkaku shochu, so it does qualify. How do you imagine the flavors of each cocktail submitted? I don't know if I understand this question. How do you imagine the flavors of each cocktail submitted by attendees? Are you asking how do we judge it based off of paper?
So I think
Mm.
it's the judges can see like, you pick the art, and when you guys making cocktail, I think it's like you guys need to explain that, like, the how you feel about it and then how you like it, and then like, how you connect between like the cocktail and the art, I think. So then so the judge is gonna feel it.
The early stages of the judging are very much about the intent behind the drinks and the connection to the artist. So what is written on paper. And we do go over every recipe as well. And, if there are some that it's like, 3 ounces of lemon juice or something weird written, like that one's not going to make it. But we don't do harsh judgments based on recipes for the initial round as much as, does this read well? Does this seem smart? Is this something that we actually want to try in person? So it very much matters, but I would say more so for the initial rounds, from taking it to a few hundred probably submissions down, is more so the storytelling, the connection, the intention, and all of that. Does that sound right, Shikako-san?
yes, absolutely.
Yay.
I think there's a lot of people still there, but I think it's already an hour and a half. So thank you so much for everyone. And now we are officially closed, but this video will be recorded and we will be uploaded in website. And please register on the website. You can take a look for previous seminar and then also long, almost 2 hours detailed shochu seminar as well. And do not rush to submit. You have to taste a lot. Oh, maybe Julia-san, you can mention in New York for the tasting event.
I will be in New York January 26th and 27th. 26th is open public tasting at Astor Wine and Spirits, but the 27th will be for trade. JSS has linked in their bio on Instagram information and dates and location and time and all of that for that. So yeah, I will be there. And we'll be tasting
Amazing.
the producers.
Yes.
It's a
So
huge, incredible opportunity. I would definitely recommend folks who can come to come.
So we didn't announce yet, but I think today we're going to be uploaded. Please come. If you never tasted, it's going to be 10 distillers coming from Japan. We have over 30 different brand is available. But this seminar is more toward to the food pairing and But again, if you want to really taste it to shochu, it was a great opportunity. You can come to taste it.
And truly to like meet the producers is an incredible experience. Like genuinely, there's some amazing people. I'm so excited to see them coming. So don't come for me, come for them. Like honestly, and the shochu.
Okay, so thank you so much, Julia.